Look at that bottle of dish soap sitting by your kitchen sink right now. That little bottle, $1, maybe $2. That is the end of your aphid problem. Not a jug of poison from the garden center. Not the fancy spray with the trigger handle that costs $11 and smells like a chemical plant. One spoonful of what you already own, mixed the right way, and those aphids curl up and die in about the time it takes you to read this sentence. I know how that sounds. I would have doubted it too if I had not watched it work my whole life. I was raised plain in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. We did not have the shelf of bottles the English keep in their garages. We had a garden that fed a family of 10, and we had to keep it alive without running to town for a product every time a bug showed up. So we learned, we watched, we passed it down, and the thing I am about to show you is something my grandfather did with a bar of soap and a bucket of soft rain 60 years before anybody put the word organic on a label and charged you triple for it. Here's the part that ought to make you a little angry. The companies that sell you aphid killer know exactly how well plain soap works. They have known for over 100 years. They just have no reason to tell you because there is no money in a solution you can already find under your sink. Stay with me, because right around the middle of this, I am going to show you the one mistake that makes homemade aphid spray fail for most people. And the free fix my community has used forever that turns a weak spray into something that clears a whole rose bush for less than the price of a cup of coffee. But first, do me a small favor. Drop a comment and tell me two things. Tell me your growing zone, or just your state, and tell me what the aphids are hitting hardest. Your roses, your kale, your milkweed, your fruit trees. I read these, and it tells me who I am talking to. Go ahead and do it now, before you forget. Now, let me tell you why one spoon of soap does what a bottle of poison does, and does it kinder. An aphid is not built like a beetle. It has no hard shell. If you have ever squished one, you know it is soft, almost like a tiny water balloon, and that is exactly the weakness. That soft little body is covered in a thin, waxy coat. That wax is the aphid's raincoat and its skin all at once. It keeps the water inside the bug from leaking out. It keeps the aphid from drying up in the sun. Everything that keeps an aphid alive depends on that waxy layer holding together. Soap is a wax remover. That is all it has ever been. When you wash a greasy pan, the soap grabs the grease and lifts it off. When that same soap lands on an aphid, it does the exact same thing to the bug's waxy coat. It breaks it down. It dissolves the raincoat right off the aphid's back. And the moment that coat is gone, the water inside the aphid rushes out and the air rushes in and the bug collapses. It does not get poisoned. It dries out and suffocates both at once in seconds. That is why you see it work so fast. There is no waiting for it to eat something and get sick. The soap touches it, the coat fails, and it is over. Now here is where the outside world finally caught up to what my people always knew. The English scientists gave it a fancy name. They call the store version insecticidal soap. And when you read what is actually in that expensive bottle, it is potassium salts of fatty acids. Say that slowly. Fatty acids. That is soap. That is animal fat or plant oil turned into soap, which is exactly what my grandmother made in a kettle in the yard every fall from the lard we rendered off the hogs. They took the oldest thing on the homestead, put it in a plastic bottle, gave it a Latin-sounding name, and marked it up 10 times over. The researchers even pinned down the strength that works best. The extension folks at Colorado State and a handful of the land-grant universities found the sweet spot sits right around 1 to 2% soap in water. Any weaker and you do not break enough of that waxy coat, any stronger and you start hurting the leaf instead of just the bug, that is the whole secret the bottle is charging you for. A number, 1 to 2%, and I am giving it to you for free. So why does it fail for so many people who try it at home? Because they either make it far too weak and nothing happens, or they make it too strong and burn their plants, and then they decide the homemade way does not work and they go back to buying the bottle, which is exactly what the folks selling the bottle are counting on. Let me fix that for you right now with the exact recipe so yours works the first time. Take 1 tablespoon of plain liquid soap, not a heaping spoon, a level 1. Put it in 1 quart of water. That is a quart, not a gallon, if you want it strong enough to work fast on a bad infestation. If you are treating tender young seedlings or delicate flowers, back it down to 2 teaspoons per quart to be gentle. Stir it slow so it does not foam up into a mess. Pour it into any spray bottle you have, even the empty one from an old cleaner you rinsed out. That is the whole thing. No measuring cups full of mystery, no gloves, no mask. Now, when you spray, this part matters more than the recipe. You have to actually hit the aphids. The soap only works on contact. It does not soak into the plant and poison the sap the way the store chemicals do. It is not a landmine that waits. It kills what it wets and nothing else. So you have to get underneath the leaves because that is where the aphids hide, packed together on the underside and down in the new growth at the tips. Turn the leaf over, spray until it drips, get into the crevices where the stem meets the leaf. If you can see the bug, wet the bug. 10 seconds later, most of them are done. Spray in the early morning or the evening, never in the hot midday sun. This is the piece people skip, and it is why they burn their plants and blame the soap. When soapy water sits on a leaf in direct afternoon sun, the sun can scorch that wet leaf. In the cool of the morning, or as the sun is going down, the spray has time to do its work and dry gently. My father would never touch the garden with any wash in the heat of the day. He said you do your spraying when the shadows are long, and he was right, though he never read a single study to know it. How often? Every 5 to 7 days until they are gone, usually 2 or 3 rounds. Aphids breed faster than almost anything alive, so you are not just killing the ones you see, you are catching the babies that hatch after. Miss a week, and they come roaring back. Stay on the schedule, and you break the cycle. Now, here is the trouble that ought to bother you. If it is this simple, this cheap, this old, why has nobody just told you? Why did you spend years walking past your own kitchen sink to go pay for a bottle? That is not an accident. And it goes deeper than one overpriced spray, which I will get to. But first, there is a question underneath all of this that I have to answer, because if you get it wrong, you will kill your plant along with the bugs. Not every soap is soap anymore. And this is where the modern world laid a trap that most folks fall right into. You would think soap is soap. It used to be, when my grandmother made it, there were 2 ingredients, fat and lye, cooked down and cured. That was it. But walk down the aisle at the store today and pick up almost any bottle that says dish soap, and it is not really soap at all. It is a detergent. It is a petroleum product built in a laboratory, and the makers pack it with degreasers, with fragrance, with dyes, with brighteners, with a whole list of things designed to cut grease off a plate, not to sit gently on a living leaf. Some of those extras, the heavy degreasers especially, will strip the protective coat right off your plant's leaves the same way they strip it off the bug. And that is how a good person following good advice ends up with a scorched, spotted rose bush and a bad taste about the whole idea. So here is how you stay safe. The gentlest choice, the one closest to what my people actually used, is a pure liquid Castile soap. The kind made from olive oil or coconut oil with nothing added. You can find it cheap. 1 bottle lasts you years because you only use a spoonful at a time, and it will not harm your plants when you keep to the strength I gave you. If you are going to use a common dish liquid instead, pick the plainest one you can find. No bleach in it, no antibacterial additives, no heavy grease cutting formula, no thick moisturizer for your hands. The simpler the bottle, the safer for the plant. And always, always test it first. Spray a couple of leaves down low on the plant, wait a full day, and look, no spotting, no wilting, no browning, and you are clear to spray the whole thing. That 1-day test costs you nothing and saves the plant you have babied all season. Now, I could stand here all evening and still only get through the aphids. But your garden has ants marching up the fence line, roaches in the cellar, slugs on the hostas, and a fence post rotting where you cannot see it yet. Every one of those has an old, plain answer sitting under your sink or in your kitchen cabinet right now, and I have written all of them down the way my people work them out, with the strengths and the timing and the mistakes to avoid, so you are never guessing again. 3 books, more than 300 pages of it, the pest work, the feeding work, zone by zone, that forces tomatoes and roses to actually produce, and the food and repair work that keeps what you already own from going to the trash. Everything I teach here for free lives in there, in full, tested, measured, laid out, step by step. If you want the whole of it in your hands, scan the QR code right there on your screen, link in the description, pinned comment. Then come back, because we are not finished. Because there is something else about this whole business that I have not said plain yet. Now let me say the quiet part out loud because you have earned it. There is an entire industry built on the space between what soap costs and what they charge you for soap. Think about it. They take fatty acids, the cheapest, oldest material on any farm, and they put it in a bottle labeled for insects at $11, $12, $14. Then they put nearly the same fatty acids in a bottle labeled for your dishes at $2. Same chemistry, same bug killing power. The only real difference between the $11 bottle and the $2 bottle is the picture of the aphid on the front and the permission it gives you to believe you needed something special. My people were never sold that story because we were never in the store to hear it. We just kept making soap and kept using it, and the bugs kept dying, and nobody ever told us we were supposed to pay more. And it is not only the soap, it is the whole idea they sell you that your garden is a battlefield and you need a shelf of weapons to survive it, that every problem needs its own product. That is the real business, not any single bottle. It is the belief that you cannot do this yourself, that nature is against you, and only their chemistry can save you. My grandfather fed a family off of a piece of ground for 40 years and never believed that for one day. The land was not his enemy, neither were the bugs. They were just something you learned to manage with what you had. Now, I know what some of you are thinking right about now. You are thinking, this is fine for somebody starting a little garden fresh, but I have got roses I planted 20 years ago. I've got an old orchard my father put in. I've got established beds, big mature plants, ground I've worked for decades. Does this really help me? Or is this just for the young folks with their raised beds and their brand new dirt? I hear you, and I want to speak straight to you now, because this is exactly the situation where the plain way beats the store-bought way by the widest margin. An old, established plant is a stronger plant. It has a deep root system, a thick woody stem, years of growth behind it. That is your advantage, not your problem. A mature rose bush can take a soap spray far better than a 2-week-old seedling ever could because it has the reserves to shrug off a little stress. So you do not have to be timid. You can use the full 1 tablespoon per quart strength on an established woody plant and clear a heavy infestation in one good soaking. Here is what you can do this very weekend with nothing but what you already have. Take that old established plant that is crawling with aphids, the one you have been staring at, wondering if it is finally done for. First, before you spray a drop, take your garden hose and give it a hard blast of plain water, just water. Turn the nozzle to a strong stream, not a mist, and blast the undersides of the leaves and the new tips where the aphids cluster. You will knock 60–70% of them clean off in about 2 minutes. Aphids are weak crawlers. Once they are knocked to the ground, most of them never make it back up to the plant. My father called this washing the plant, and he did it to the roses along the porch every few mornings in June, long before he ever mixed up a drop of soap. Then, once you have knocked the bulk of them off with water, you go in with the soap spray for the stragglers that are hanging on tight. That 1 to 2 punch, the hard water rinse followed by the soap, is how you clear a big old established plant fast without soaking the whole thing in 10 times more spray than you need. The rinse does the heavy lifting for free. The soap finishes the job, and it works just as well on a 50-year-old lilac as it does on a brand new tomato start. There is one more thing for you folks with established ground, and it is the part the store will never sell you, because it is the opposite of buying anything. On old, settled land, you almost always have helpers already living there. Ladybugs, lacewings, little wasps you never even notice. Those are aphid eaters, and one ladybug larva can eat hundreds of aphids before it grows up. When you dump broad chemical poison on an established garden, you kill those helpers right along with the pests, and then you are worse off than when you started, because now nothing is keeping the aphids in check but you and your wallet. This is the trap. The poison kills your free labor, so you need more poison, so you buy more forever. That is the dependency they are selling. Soap does not do that if you use it right. Because it only kills what it directly wets and leaves no poison behind, you can spray the aphids on the tips and leave the ladybugs on the lower leaves alone. Spray in the evening when the good bugs are less active. Spot treat the clusters instead of drenching the whole yard. Do it that way and you keep your little army alive while you thin out the enemy. My grandfather never called them beneficial insects. He just knew that a garden with ladybugs in it had fewer troubles, and he was careful not to chase them off. The English scientists put a name on it, but he lived it. So, Now you have got the recipe, the strength, the timing, the safe soap, and the trick for old established plants. You would think that is the whole story. For most of the videos you will find, that is the whole story. But there is a reason your homemade spray might still let you down even after you do everything I just said, and it is the one thing nobody talks about because you cannot buy the fix. It comes out of the sky for free. Let me tell you about the water. For years, I would hear the same complaint from English neighbors who tried the soap spray after I told them about it. They would say, "It worked a little, but not like you said. It did not knock them dead the way you promised." And I could never figure it out because we were using the same soap, the same spoonful, the same everything, until one day it hit me. They were filling their spray bottles from the kitchen tap, from the well, from the city line, from water that runs hard through this whole part of the country, and I was filling mine from the rain barrel at the corner of the barn, the way my family always had, because that was simply the water that was closest to the garden. That was the whole difference, and there is real chemistry underneath it that explains why my rain barrel spray had been quietly outworking their tap water spray the entire time. Hard water, the water most of you have coming out of your tap, is full of dissolved minerals, calcium, magnesium. It picks them up passing through rock and soil underground. Now, here is the thing about soap. Those very minerals are the enemy of soap. When your fatty acid soap meets the calcium and magnesium in hard water, the two grab onto each other and clump up into a useless curd. It is the exact same thing as the ring of scum around an old bathtub or the film on your shower door. That scum is your soap, ruined, bonded to the minerals before it ever got the chance to touch a single bug. So when you spray hard tap water mixed with soap, a big share of your soap has already been deactivated in the bottle. You are spraying weak, curdled water and wondering why the aphids are shrugging it off. Rainwater has almost none of those minerals in it. It falls soft and clean. When you mix your soap into soft rainwater, every bit of that soap stays active. Nothing binds it up. Nothing wastes it. So the same spoonful of soap in rainwater hits those aphids at full strength. And that is the difference between aphids that die in 10 seconds and aphids that just get a little wet and carry on eating your roses. This is not old wives' talk. Go and read the folks who study cleaning and soap chemistry, and it is the plainest fact they have. Soap performs worse in hard water, and it takes far more soap to get the same job done because the minerals eat the first portion of it alive. The soap makers have known this for well over a century. It is written in the old agricultural bulletins from the 1800s, back when every farm made its own soap and every farmer knew that rainwater washed better than well water. They knew soft water and soap belonged together. Then indoor plumbing came, and everybody started grabbing water from the tap without a second thought, and that little piece of knowledge just quietly slipped away from the outside world. But it never slipped away from us, because we kept the rain barrels. We never stopped catching what fell from the sky. So here is your finale, the thing that costs you nothing and changes everything. Put a barrel or a clean bucket under a downspout and catch the rain. Use that water to mix your soap spray. That is it. If you have no rain caught and the aphids will not wait, there is a second trick that gets you most of the way there. Let your tap water sit out in an open bucket overnight, and better yet, mix in a small pinch of baking soda, less than a quarter teaspoon to the quart, and stir. The baking soda helps soften the water by tying up some of those minerals so your soap has a better chance of staying active. It is not quite as good as pure rain from the sky, but it is a world better than spraying straight from a hard tap. Do this. Mix your 1 spoon of plain soap into soft rainwater. Spray it in the cool of the evening onto the undersides of the leaves after a quick hose rinse. And you will watch a rose bush that was gray with aphids come clean in a single weekend. For the price of nothing. With a barrel of water the good Lord dropped in your yard for free and a spoonful of soap you already owned. Think about what that really means. For years, maybe for decades, you paid for bottle after bottle of something you already had under your sink, mixed with water you were making weaker without even knowing it. Every one of those bottles was a small toll charged to you for not knowing a thing your great-grandparents knew by heart. That knowledge did not disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because there was more money in you forgetting it. My people never forgot, not because we are clever, but because we never had the store standing between us and the garden telling us we needed more than we did. You are not the kind of person who wants to keep paying that toll. If you were, you would not have watched this far. You are the kind who would rather do it yourself, with your own hands, with what is already in your house, and falling from your own sky, the way it was done long before any of us were born. That instinct in you, the one that says, this cannot really be that expensive, this cannot really be that complicated, that instinct is right. It has always been right. Trust it. So, do this for me. If you have not yet, go down and tell me your state or your growing zone, and tell me which plant the aphids are punishing this year. Your roses, your kale, your milkweed, your apple trees? Write it in the comments right now, because I read them and I want to know what you are up against. And if somebody reading this is fighting a battle you have already won with soap and rainwater, tell them how you did it. That is how this knowledge stays alive. One neighbor telling another, if you want more of the plain ways, the cheap and simple things my community has leaned on for generations while the outside world was busy buying bottles, then come along with us. Subscribing is not about helping some channel. It is about standing with the folks who refuse to keep overpaying for what the land already gives away. That is who gathers here. And next time, I am going to show you the one thing my grandmother buried at the base of every tomato plant, a scrap most people throw straight in the trash that kept the blight off and the fruit heavy right through August. It is sitting in your kitchen tonight, and you have been throwing it away your whole life. Stay with me, and I will show you where it goes and why it works. Before you go, one thing. Inside the Amish field circle, I pick up right where this video stopped, walking you through the exact recipe, spray to harvest. And if your garden puzzles you, you ask me, and I answer you myself, not some machine. You belong here with thousands of old ways growers like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime. Come join me. Now that your aphids are gone, let me show you how to protect against every other pest too. With just one gentle spray, you keep your plants safe and healthy. That next video is starting right here.